Hello! So you probably all know that one of my main reading interests is CanLit, and I like reading Canadian authors, but I also love reading about CanLit. So I thought today I would share with you some of the books on my TBR pile that have to do with CanLit itself. So why don't we just get started? Now, the book I'm reading right now is called When Canadian Literature Moved to New York by Nick Mount. And this is about a time in the history of writing and publication in Canada where there was no real infrastructure to support Canadian writers, and so a lot of them ended up moving down to the States so they could afford to do what they do. So it's a really fascinating read, and I'm loving reading about these writers and also these like startups that emerge, these newspapers and magazines. It's really fascinating to me, and makes me want to start my own. Anyone have the capital for that? Lend it. Next up we have Janet B. Friskney's New Canadian Library, The Ross McClelland Years, 1952 to 1978. And this is about a time in Canada's past when a lot of Canadian literature was actually like out of print and unavailable to people. And so it's telling the story of Ross and McClelland, who came together to kind of form a book series called The New Canadian Library, which is now responsible for publishing so much CanLit. I have a few copies, let me grab some. This is kind of the old style New Canadian Library books, mass market, and then the updated ones, the ones that are for sale today, are these kind of really beautiful, small, same mass market style, but a little bit higher quality binding. But they also have them in the trade. You can see the way that the design kind of carries through into the trades. But it's a great series, so I'm really looking forward to reading about how that series came to be. And then we had Douglas Gibson's Stories About Storytellers. And this book is just exactly what it sounds like. Just stories about eminent Canadian writers. The next one is also published by McClelland & Stewart, who publishes the New Canadian Library series, so you can see similar design here, but it's called The Perilous Trade, book publishing in Canada from 1946 to 2006. So, similar to the other two books that I've mentioned already, it's about the history of the industry of Canadian literature and kind of what it had to do in order to get to the place that it is now. This one I just recently picked up, and it is 11 novelists interviewed by Graham Gibson, and it's part of the House of Anansi A-List series, and I love the illustration on the cover. But this one, again, is exactly what it sounds like. 11 interviews, writers like Margaret Atwood, Matt Cohen, Timothy Findley, Margaret Lawrence, and Alice Munro, Mordecai Richler. So there are some big names in here, and I really can't wait to read it. And then I have two books by Lorraine York, who Ronnie knows and was taught by, and you're gonna hook me up, don't forget. But that is Literary Celebrity in Canada, and then Margaret Atwood and the Labor of Literary Celebrity. And I've read sections of both of these books, so now I just want to go through and read the sections that I haven't read yet, obviously. And finally, a book with my darling Sinclair Ross, Collecting Stamps Would Have Been More Fun. And this is a book about, again, Canadian publishing, but it includes Sinclair Ross's correspondence with a lot of Canadian writers and people within the Canadian publishing industry, such as Margaret Atwood again, Margaret Lawrence again, Pamela Fry, Robert Weaver. So I'm looking forward to reading these because I'm a CanLit-aholic, and I'm interested in learning about sort of the history of CanLit as a sort of industry. So if you are too, check these books out and let me know what you thought of them, and I'll let you know what I thought of them, and it'll be great. That's it for CanLit right now. I'm gonna actually do some reading now. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, bye.